Pastor Shagan has just delegated, and I want to appreciate the honor to welcome and introduce the mayor of the city of Jerusalem, the city of God. The mayor is an Israeli businessman, an accomplished one, and an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and also a leading politician in Israel. My understanding, and this is very basic understanding, is that someone who leads in the city of Jerusalem, is indeed a very senior leader in political leadership of Israel. And the mayor was first elected as the mayor of Jerusalem in 2008, and was re-elected for a second term in 2013. And in 2015, we had the privilege of being in the city and traveled around Jerusalem, and we're very, very impressed by the amount of development. We were very impressed by, the state of peace and calm in the city of Jerusalem. South Africans have a very special relationship with the mayor because the mayor is our brother-in-law. We're very, very, very close to Jerusalem. And Mayor, we want to welcome you and your team in our midst, and we wish you well with us this afternoon. So, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome to the podium to do a keynote address for the launch of the Africa-Israel Chamber of Commerce, Mayor Ner Bakard, and we want to welcome His Excellency to the front.
Shalom, everyone. Welcome to Jerusalem, the holy city. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Professor Jerry Ghana, Professor Dankit Nasiuma, and Pastor Shegun Ola Nipe Kun, right? And all of the wonderful people that traveled from Africa to Jerusalem. And I want to honor you and thank you for launching the new Chamber of Commerce. For me, it's a very important sign of developing the relationship. I will speak about that a little bit further in my speech. And indeed, I am a very happy married man to a South African lady. Beverly, my wife, immigrated to Israel when she was 10 years old. That was 41 years ago. Ever since, I actually fell in love with South Africa, and we travel almost every year back to the game reserves and to see family and friends. And thank God, I'm very, very happy with that kind of relationship. So indeed, I am a brother-in-law of all of you. And that's exactly the way I feel. Many people ask me, as mayor of Jerusalem, how does this city work? What's the role of Jerusalem in the future? And how do we derive strategies and tactics to develop Jerusalem, to bring it to fulfill the role Jerusalem plays in hearts of 5 billion people around the world? And to best understand how I work and how I think and how I manage my city, to best understand that future, let me take you back 3,000 years. When kings and prophets walked in our city, in the land that we walk today, when the people of Israel came back from Egypt after hundreds of years of slavery through the desert, the land was divided to the different 12 Jewish tribes. You could Google and see the allotment of the tribes in Israel, except the city of Jerusalem, that was not given to any specific tribe. Jerusalem was in the heart of Israel, and it was managed where you had the Temple Mount on the north side of the city, and the gates of Jerusalem were open for the benefit of all people in the world to come and worship God. Mind you that 3,000 years ago, there were still no Christians. You folks came 1,000 years later. Muslims came 1,600 years later. Yet Jerusalem functioned for all of the world, for all tribes, Jews and non-Jews alike, all welcome to its gates. So Jerusalem was like a hub of the world. And when you came to the gates of the city of Jerusalem, like you come today, everyone was welcome. Welcome to look as peer. There was no guests or hosts. There was no guest tribe or hosting tribes. Everyone was peer. And that's why they say in the Bible that Jerusalem makes all people friends. Okay, that togetherness, that inclusiveness, did not happen anywhere else in the world, but in the holy city of Jerusalem, that was not given to a specific person. That's the way King David built it. And King Solomon built the temple afterwards. And can you imagine for 1,000 years, Jerusalem is a center for all people of all faiths? They also say, there's another very important biblical phrase, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, meaning from Zion, which is a synonym to Jerusalem, new thought leadership, new Torah comes out. Not only holy issues, practically anything that was successful in Jerusalem. All the pilgrims that came to Jerusalem went back home and said, hey, guess what's new in Jerusalem? Now, if it's new and it's working in Jerusalem, it becomes a new de facto standard automatically all over the world. Because if the different tribes, Jews and non-Jews alike, accept something in Jerusalem, that means it works everywhere in the world. So Jerusalem had amazing function. The function of creating new thought leadership, getting people together, worshiping God as the holy city, and creating that togetherness all over the world, without exception. Jews and non-Jews alike. What I described to you is not our past. It's our future. And Jerusalem's role in the world is to get people together, to respect people together, to enable mosques, churches, and synagogues in 1 square kilometer in ancient city of Jerusalem. We have more of those than anywhere else in the world. Functioning, working. We're all different tribes of Christianity have their way to worship God. The Muslims and the Jews, together with amazing respect. The openness in our city, nobody could ever compete. And the fact that we work extremely hard to maintain that openness and freedom of religion is second to no other place in the world. And so, for me as mayor, first of all, we tell all the people in the world, please come and enjoy your faith, your way in our city. And doing that, you could also look at how other people practice their faith their way, because that's the role of Jerusalem, getting people together. That openness is fundamental, and all Israeli governments and municipalities fanatically obey that freedom of religion, freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Anybody can come in our city, as long as they come peacefully, right? And enjoy the uniqueness of our city. If you understand that vision, you understand why Jerusalem must stay a united city. It can never fulfill its role if, God forbid, it's divided. It's counterintuitive to the role of the city. But because of that, what we need to do in our city is work very, very hard on inclusiveness and making sure all different parts of faiths feel comfortable in our city. If one tribe, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, ultra-Orthodox, secular, immigrants, and others, one tribe does not feel comfortable in our city, it means that we're not working hard enough to maintain that togetherness. And for me, when I speak to the different threads of of the different communities in Jerusalem, I remind them that. So, actually, when you think about it, because we have all tribes, all people, almost by design, we have all the conflicts in the world. Muslims, Christians, ultra-Orthodox and secular, each have their thought and way of life. And naturally, conflicts in our city, it's not a problem, it's not a bug, it's a feature. And we manage conflicts all day, every day. Proudly so. Basically, we say to the world, remember that city that belongs to all? If there's no conflict, it means something's not happening in our city. And so while many people shy away and run away and don't, or try to beat one another, in our case, we go in a different route. How do we live together in harmony, in spite of the challenges and the conflicts we have internally? This is part of the phenomena and the uniqueness of our city. Actually, I think we're doing a very good job on that. At any given moment in time, on my table, many conflicts. But I remind everyone that those conflicts is part of our life, and we must be very proud of how do we work together. There's a very important word in our life that is almost sacred, and it means status quo. Most people in the world don't understand or appreciate what that word means. In Jerusalem, it means I have very different opinions with you. I'm Christian, you're Muslim, I'm secular, you're ultra-Orthodox. Don't try to convince me that I must change. However, for the benefit of living together, we're willing to make social compromise. Not on our ideology, but for the benefit of living together, we make social compromise. And those social compromises, for example, in the holy day of Saturday, of Shabbat, we have secular and ultra-Orthodox people, and we know how to, it's not perfect, but we know that living together is more important than always being right. And those mutual compromises happens between Muslims and Muslims, Christians and Christians, Jews and Jews. By the way, those are the toughest. The more people are similar to each other, the tougher the conflicts. And then you've got different communities that you are willing to welcome. And so this is a phase of how we live together that is unique to our city in many, many ways because of its holiness, because of the drive people have to connect to their way of living their lives. But then there's another element of that, and that is how do we develop our city and develop models, innovative models of getting out of poverty, of education systems that are so different from each other. How do we learn from each other and improve just by looking at other ideas and having that huge variance and differences between the people? In many, many ways, it helps us learn and get perspective and improve our models of operations in our city, in education and welfare and economic growth. And one of the things I expect from the new venture of, that you've just created is how can we actually exchange not just economic knowledge, net economic knowledge and cooperation between companies, but how can we exchange best practices that eventually turn to better quality of life. My expectation as mayor is to share with you the initiatives that we're developing on the economic side, and side by side to that, a few other ideas that could be very relevant. We love to share knowledge, share experience. I'll give you a few examples on that. On the economic side, Jerusalem, I am a high-tech entrepreneur, and I focused a lot of attention and economic incentives to scaling our high-tech sector. And in the last few years, we grew just in Jerusalem from 250 startups, high-tech startups 4 years ago, to over 600 today. We added 4,000 engineers in the last 2 years, from 14,000 to 18,000 engineers, and rapidly growing. And Jerusalem now is a nice blip on the radar screen globally. We joined the 35th industry as a city in 2015. Last year we jumped to number 25. And we just had a huge acquisition by Intel of a company called Mobileye for $15 billion. And they're going to be the leading, here in Jerusalem, we're opening up the leading research in the world for driverless cars. In other words, for the future cars that don't need even drivers to drive. This is some of the companies we have here. We are leaders in Israel in health, life sciences industries. And we're now defined as top 5 emerging tech hub cities in the world in terms of growth. Thank you. What we did due diligence and worked on where we have competitive advantage and focused on energies and creating an ecosystem for that. Now, because our industry and our market here in Israel is relatively very tiny, we make a lot of noise, but we're only 8 million people. We depend our success on cooperating and relationship around the world. So Israel wants relationships all over the world, of course, including Africa, in order to exchange that knowledge, exchange markets. We are strong in R&D, in research, development. The markets are all over the world. And by that exchange, you create relationships for the betterness of all people. Another area is the fact that Jerusalem is one of the most important brands in the world. 3,000 years investment. And so many people around the world, including yourselves, that I meet, I ask a lot of people in the world, have you ever been? By the way, who is here first time? Okay. So when I go to Africa, to the game reserves, I ask the people that we meet there, they ask us where I'm from. I say from Jerusalem. Their eyes open up and they say, oh, this is a place I've not yet been to, with emphasis on yet. And so my goal is creating relationship to enable people to come and walk the streets where kings and prophets walked, with a Bible in the hand. And you see that it's all happened right here. And this is an experience that we would love to share with people all over the world. And for us to have teams like yourselves come and visit and see in their own eyes, and go back home as ambassadors of Israel and Jerusalem, and develop relationships and open up people's hearts. This is something that we would really like to see through the partnership with you.
Before the mayor leaves, the executive members may please step down and go back to their seats. We want to present to the mayor the book of signatures that Africans are signing in support of Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish people and the eternal home of the Christian faith. This petition is going on till 2019. It's been signed by different African countries. And this is an advanced copy, just to let you know that this project is going on. I think in 2019 it's going to be bigger and fatter. But we are saying we support the unification of Jerusalem because 50 years ago, this city came under Jewish rule and it has developed and advanced. And we want to say as Africans, we support that. We believe that it is your city and we believe that God gave Jerusalem to the Jewish people and it is the root of our faith. It is the place where our Lord Jesus Christ lived and walked and had his ministry. He died here and he rose from the grave here. And we believe that he is the Jewish Messiah and we want the city to be kept and to be preserved for that eternal purpose of his kingdom. This is why Africans are signing this petition and our elder here has the pleasure and one of the daughters of Africa, representing the children of Africa. We want the children of Africa to know that Jerusalem belongs to the Jewish people. And we thank God that she came.
Are you all ready? I think with a great African, expression of joy, we present this on behalf.
Look at the camera.
Thank you. It's a big honor. It's a big honor to be here. Thank you so much.